Hey boys and girls, Doug Giles here. It's Warriors Rich
and Wildmen. What's happening, Doug? Did you like that pause for
I did.
Dramatic pause?
It's a pregnant pause.
Yeah, and, man. So you never know. Never know.
Hey, if we've got some Warriors and Wild Men with some kiddos that are graduating high school or college, Rich, you know me, I don't like to talk about my stuff at all. But man, if you've got young people and they like this thing called reality and the Word of God and they're committed to Christ and they want to put a big scar in Satan's haggard backside, get them my Lion-Hearted book. If they're dudes, even the dudettes would like it. If you've got a lassie in your house, Biblical Badasses, the women, art galore, just great stuff over at DougGiles.net. You can load up for the graduates, man. Rich, you graduated?
Yeah, man. No, man,
you're stuck, right?
The world's been giving me the third degree, you know what I'm saying? I guess I'm working on that one.
You know, I got kicked out of high school 2 weeks before I was to graduate. I had to have every freaking class. And my art teacher threw me out of art. I flunked art, and
That's funny.
And I'm a working artist. Yeah, it's a hall of shame when you have to repeat your senior year, going back with all the people that used to, really give grief to. And now, lo and behold, you're the stooge. You're having to repeat your senior year in high school. But I graduated, and then I got kicked out of university, and then I got born again. And I went and told the dean of the Liberals Art College that I got saved. And Rich, he's sitting there smoking a cigarette in his office, staring at me. And I'm just boo-hooing, telling him about, my testimony and whatever. And he looked at me and he goes, "That's the damnedest story I've ever heard in my life." And he took his pen and he signed me back in to Texas Tech, and I graduated from Texas Tech
that's
also.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's cool. He said, "I've never heard anything like that." He said, "Nobody, it's like, I'm not a Christian. I don't even believe, what you're telling me." He said, "But that's awesome. I can tell you believe it." So I got that going for me.
Hey, man, when I was in school, I never got kicked out. I had in-school suspension a couple times for being a troublemaker, but I never had any problems with that because all I wanted to do is stay eligible for wrestling. So most of my shenanigans began shortly after my graduation. So
yeah, I spent many a day in school suspension, and our poor teacher, Mrs. Johnston. I mean, it's a frickin' jail, and she's just this mean, tall. She's like 6'4" woman, real skinny and stuff, hair pulled back in a bun, and me and this guy named Stuart, we were always getting put in school suspension, and so Stuart was a big weed dealer, and so he'd bring his one hitter into in-school suspension, and we're trying to figure out when we can hit it since we're in school suspension. So we would do it when we would go to the bathroom because Miss Johnston couldn't go to the bathroom with us, and so
right.
So Stuart and I, we would stand on the toilet and we would blow it into the exhaust fan, and then we would roll out about 10 minutes later, and we were chewing bubble yum so to disguise the weed smell, which we didn't figure that it clings to your hair follicles and your clothing. And yeah, she was pretty hip to it, but she couldn't prove it because Stuart also left the one hit stuff in one of those ceiling tiles. He just lifts it up, boom, puts it right there, shuts it back down. We were idiots, man, stone cold idiots, and I'm so glad that Christ drugged me into his fold at the age of 21, because I'd be dead.
Well, there's a thing that's important about that I think will kind of lead into our topic today is that when I was in school, I was messing around all the time. I would get my report cards and I would forge them so that it looked like I had better grades than I did. I found out years later, my mom called the school and said, mail his report card to my business office. So they weren't buying it. But my parents were all over me, bro. I got arrested for curfew violation and minor in consumption of alcohol, and my dad picked me up at the jail about 2 o'clock in the morning, kicked me in the butthole with his cowboy boots on. He told me, "Don't even turn around, walk to the car." And I just remember my parents were all over me, dude, doing the best they could, and I was just rebelling as hard as I could. I remember my mom said, "You did school again?" and I'll come to school with you and I'll walk you to every class. And I said, cool, I want you to meet all my friends. I liked my parents. I didn't care. I was like, come to school. So that didn't really work, but they were doing the best they could. And my mom later asked, maybe we were too hard on you. Maybe we did too much. And I said, no, my brother and I both needed that. We needed it. And it's every parent's job to do their best. It can't be like, you can't start thinking like this. People do this, Doug. Well, what can I do about it? What sense does it even make? Will it even make a difference? It doesn't make a difference. It does. You do what the Bible says. You commit to raising up fine young men and women of God, and you do the best that you can so that you can answer to God one day and say, hey, these are my kids. I did my best. I know I didn't do some things great and probably did some things terrible and some things good, but I did my best. And so I think that kind of leads into our topic today. You want to tell the Warriors and Wildmen listener what we're talking about now?
Yeah, so yesterday, and I don't know when this podcast is going to air, but it's April 10th. Yesterday, and this story is going to have a lot of legs, Rich, for many, many moons. Mm-hmm. A landmark ruling was handed down to James Crumbly and his estranged wife, Jennifer. They got 10, maybe 15 years behind bars because, their weird ass son, what's his name? You got his name there?
Ethan.
Yeah,
Ethan Crumbly. His
weird son, if you look at his mugshot, you can tell that this guy's channeling, at least 6,000 demons and stuff. So their weird son, took a gun and shot up a school. I think he killed 4 people. I don't know how many wounded.
Killed 4.
Yeah, so they got 15 years because they let this crap go down under their watch. And again, parents have not been held accountable at all, from Sandy Hook massacre to the Parkland, Florida massacre. Parents just, they see what Scooter Jr.'s doing, and they knew what Ethan was up to. And Ethan, and I'm not sympathetic towards Ethan, but he's crying for help. He's writing notes, trying to get parents to toss him to a therapist. And they instead go out and get him, a frickin' Glock or a Sig, and then, just shortly thereafter, he goes on
Glock.
his rampage.
Yeah, they bought it 4 days before that.
Yeah, so days. you got a kid who, again, just like Adam Lanza, you look at their mug shots and you're like, holy crap, this kid shouldn't be anywhere near a rubber band gun, much less a real gun, because again, you can see it in his eyes, man. They're freaking soulless. The lights are on, nobody's home, and you get some stupid, dumbass mom and dad. It's like, here's a gun. Like Adam Lanza's mom took him to the gun range all the freaking time. And and again, these aren't normal kids. You got these weird bang cut. You got a bob haircut with Adam, and he's staring, like a zombie into his school pictures, and it's like, I know what can dial you down. Let's get some range time.
Well,
no way.
And this kid, it was already well documented that he was showing cruelty to animals. Classic stuff. Classic. Like he was torturing and killing animals and stuff. Like what? First of all, that's whack all by itself. Who does that? The Bible says a man's tender mercies are towards his animals. And, I'm not a huge pet fan, and I think we've gone too far in our society, the worship of our dogs and stuff, calling them your kids. I think that's weird. But to be cruel to animals is a whole nother deal, right? Like who does that? Because they're somewhat defenseless. Most of the time they're defenseless. It's not like, you're out hunting big game or you're hunting for food, but hunting, the dangerous game, they could kill you back, right? No, just torturing animals for the same sake.
Right, he's pulling legs off frogs and doing weird crap like that. And again, the parents they can't say, we didn't know. It's like, again, I look at this kid, and I know it's after the fact and on Monday morning quarterbacking, but you look at this kid, and it's like, that stuff is screaming off of him.
Yep.
And again, same thing with Lanza. And if you look at, and the Parkland, I can't remember the Parkland, Nick Cruz, the Parkland, Florida high school shooter, every one of them full-on nutbag. all of their prior pictures. Same thing with the Uvalde shooter, just absolute kooks. And I don't know if they all lived with mom and dad. I know Lanza did. I know Cruz's mom died
One
prior.
lived there with their grandparents or something. Yeah.
Yeah, so there they are, and it's like, I'm glad that these parents got charged. I mean, this is
It wasn't out of the blue.
It's
It wasn't.
neglect.
Look, it wasn't like this kid was just even a normal kid or somewhat troubled. Most teenagers are somewhat troubled, right? They're going through their thing, But it wasn't like he was just a normal teenager with some problems and then popped out one day and smoked some kids. That didn't happen. There was a whole progression, and they watched this stuff unfold, and they knew that he needed help, and they didn't do anything. And then they added a gun to the mix. And you need to be held accountable. You need to be held responsible. And the court decided 10 to 15 years each. And another thing that added, what I read, that added to the judge's decision is their apparent lack of remorse in the beginning. Now, later, they started acting remorseful because now you're being tried. But they didn't have any remorse in the beginning. And the dad, I think, even emailed and threatened one of the parents, bro, like some crazy, like there's going to be retribution for this or some weird thing. It's like, okay, you're weird. Your wife is weird, or your former wife, or whatever that weird thing is. Your kid's definitely weird. You're all weird. Let's send all of you to prison. And they got manslaughter. And what's manslaughter? It means I didn't intentionally kill these people, but I did not control what I could control, and what I left available cost people their lives. I made mistakes that should have been seen that cost people their lives. And I say, fair enough. Go to prison. And other parents need to start taking note. It's these parents that cover up for their kids. Kids are freaking weirdos, and they don't want to admit it. And people tell them, and they don't listen. And, you end up with this kind of garbage. And maybe not this extreme, right? Drives me nuts.
Yeah, again, I don't know their family dynamic is obviously way messed up and stuff. Yeah, it's not very dynamo, unless you're Satan, and then they did a great job in extending his dark kingdom. But the estranged wife, she's boinking some firefighter, and again, I don't know everything, obviously, behind the scenes. I know what this kid did externally to four poor students, and you see their grieving parents. I can't imagine the heartbreak. But so mom's hooking up. She's not focused on Scooter Jr., who's definitely freaking 17 bubbles off level. They try to satiate his mendacity by giving him a firearm. He's doing sketches of Glocks. He's talking about mental health issues. Just crazy.
Well, they said he was also watching. He bypassed the school firewall so he could get on violent prison sites, and watch violent prison crimes. I mean,
yeah.
Hello.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. Maybe the Warrior and Wildmen listener, if you're having an affair right now and ignoring your crazy kid, maybe you should stop, and maybe you should, pay attention to Scooter Jr. before he goes and lights up a classroom. It's, again, it's exactly what Lanza's mom did. I mean, I wrote a book. I was general editor actually for it, and I contributed like 6 chapters. It's called The Sandy Hook Massacre back in 2013, I believe, when seconds count, the cops are minutes away. She knew he was full on nutbag. She's buying him guns. She didn't like if I have a kid and I can tell he's gonzo or she's gonzo, then I'm not going to have my guns laying around the house like I normally would with normal sane children. I'm going to sew the key inside some cavity in my body so that he's going to be or she's going to be just unable to access any kind of weapons. But again, I freaking don't get it. Like Dylan, Eric Harris and what's the guy's name, Dylan Klebold, with the Columbine shooting. Their parents, like, I had no idea, man, Rich. I had no
That was
idea
a
he
lie.
was planning this. He's got frickin' bazookas. He's got, he's got, he's
Look how
got
they
dynamite.
dress. Look at
Right.
their eyes.
Yeah. Trench coats. Yeah, and again, like, we didn't know what he was doing down in the basement. Well, go down in the damn basement and
Yeah,
rifle
walk
through his
down
stuff.
there.
My mom would, man. She found my weed all the time. She found my Playboy magazines all the time, She she would go through my closet, my drawers, my weird stash boxes. She had no
Yep.
qualms whatsoever. And I guarantee if I had a frickin', 17 bricks, 223 rounds, and some pipe
Yeah.
bombs and stuff, I think she would have found them, and she would have taken the pipe bomb and beat the shiitake mushrooms out of her stupid 17-year-old son. But there the parents are. What kind of minds, especially if you're a Christian,
Oh, if you're a Christian, come on.
you can't parent like that. You have to discipline your child, albeit with love. But Solomon says, you spare the rod, you damn the child. And you look at this Ethan cat, not only is he damned, but also he's taken 4 innocent lives and just absolutely wrecked, 4 wonderful families. And those reverbs are going to be felt for decades. But
And he wounded 6 other people and a teacher. So
Yeah,
7, 6 other students.
So if you think about just being dilatory as mom and dad, it's like, I'm not going to punish him. I'm not going to, put a lasso around him and slow him down. Instead, I'm going to throw, fuel to the fire. Here's a gun. He's crying for help. Don't give him help.
Yeah.
He wants
let me say
attention,
this.
and mom goes boinks a firefighter.
if Warriors and Wildmen listeners listening and thinking, well, how would they know? Maybe, he kind of hid some of it, and maybe they were just trying. Let me read a little bit from the CNN article. I think this is important to put it in context. Teenager Ethan Crumbley was sentenced to life in prison without parole for gunning down 4 classmates, wounding 6 others, and a teacher at Michigan's Oxford High School in 2021. Dismissing last-minute defense pleas, the Crumbley's life is salvageable. Oakland County Circuit Court Judge Kwame Rowe noted that the defendant, in his own words, told the court, this is nobody else's fault but his own. Obviously, the judge later with the parents disagree. We also disagree. But Rowe said victim Justin Schilling, 17 years old, was shot at point-blank range after being told by the defendant to get on his knees. Check this out. Hannah St. Juliana, 14, was shot a second time after she was down, he said, to finish the job by shooting her again. The judge said, this is an execution. This is torture. He shot most people multiple times, and he wrote it down for notoriety, and he wanted to go down as the biggest school shooter in Michigan history. And they had a recording of him saying, tomorrow I'm going to have some fun. So if anybody's trying to be sympathetic, look, he could get saved and go to heaven. Good. Go to prison the rest of your life. You got life without parole, possibility of parole. You're done. Good. If he gets saved, praise God for that. Get saved. You can't pay back, for what he took away from these families. And the parents, absolutely responsible. Look, if your kid's like looking at violent content online, you need to sit down and talk to them, right? If they're doing like messing with animals and, hey, bro, come on now. That's weird. We don't do that twisted stuff. But when they're doing 3, 4, 5 of these weird things, you might have a violent, crazy, sadistic freak. And when you look at this kid and you put that, Doug, you cannot have someone who's an executioner living in their house and you don't know. And the answer is, I'm going to buy him a gun and put it like that right there. The parents absolutely should be in prison, 100%.
Yeah, mommy, dearest Jennifer Crumbley, she claims that she was too busy, Rich. She's just too busy to help Ethan on the day of the shooting after he was caught drawing disturbing images of school shootings were shot down as humiliating revelations of her private life were heard in court. So, namely, Jenny
Having an affair.
she's boinking local fire captain Brian Malachi amid claims that she met up with him during the tragedy, alongside allegations about her use of online hookup apps, as prosecutors painted her as a negligent mother. again, if you're going to bring a kid into this world, then it's your job, damn it, to make certain that he or she doesn't morph into an Ethan Crumbly. You got that, mom and
Yep.
dad? And I remember Dennis Miller said back in the late '90s. He said, when the what do you call it, the Brady Bill, and
Yeah.
it's this mandatory wait before anybody could purchase a firearm. Dennis Miller posited, Rich, that there should be a Brady Bunch bill. That as a dad and mom, you got to prove that you're going to stay together. You got to prove that you're going to raise your kids to be on the positive side of the ledger, and he's going to be an added, and he's going to be an addition, a great positive addition to this grand experiment in self-governance, to God and country. And if not, if you can't prove that, then you don't get to breed. And
There you go.
I know he's being cheeky, obviously, but
Yeah, it's not going to happen, but there you go. Yeah, you have to get a license to have a car, but you don't have to have a license to bring 5 kids in the world. Here's another thing during the victim impact statements, what the mom said at the son's trial, is she told him straight to his face, she said, if you were so lonely, my son would have been your friend if you would have asked him. So this whole, I feel sorry for him, no way, man. No way. Don't. You know what? When it starts costing people their lives or even the potential to lose people's lives, no, you need to be institutionalized. In the Old Testament, they just take you outside of town and you get stoned. And I ain't talking about weed. But they don't tolerate that stuff. The Bible doesn't tolerate it, doesn't make it okay. Being a Christian doesn't mean you can't pray for this guy and hope that he gets saved. But you can't have these emotional sympathies for someone who took people's lives away. That's not real. This is not some self-defense. This is a premeditated, sadistic execution style of young people taking their life. No. He's like, you know what? I would have voted for the death penalty. No problem for me. Death penalty. No problem. If you're old enough to plan murders like that and carry them out in such a sick way, you're old enough to be strapped up to the chair, bro. That's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, on the morning of the shooting, teachers, started seeing red lights when they saw on his homework. He's got a picture of a dude laying in blood, a couple bullet holes in him. There's looks like a 22 round or maybe a 9mm round or something. He drew a picture of a bullet. Says blood everywhere. So instead of instead of answering the frickin' questions on this piece of homework, got a dead body. He's got a smiley face laughing, and he's laughing so hard tears are spurting from his eyes. And got a pretty decent rendering of a Glock, and then underneath the Glock it says, "The thoughts won't stop. Help me." And he's got another thing down below on the homework says, "My life is useless and the world is dead."
Well, I bet you those parents pride themselves on being atheists. I know I'm being a jerk, but you know what? All these parents out there raising their kids without God, what'd you think?
Yeah.
What do you think?
If there's no God, if there's no, purpose, if there's no destiny, if there's no rhyme or reason, and again, I'm not defending this indefensible act and stuff. You're gonna get nihilism. You're gonna get people who are freaking depressed, and then you throw a little, Mortal Kombat or whatever their freaking dumb video games that they have that desensitizes them. Just shooting hookers and shooting, whomever. And then you give, this absolute bad crap crazy 15-year-old, a Glock, then it's this recipe for disaster. Right. So, with the Warriors and Wildmen, husbands and wives, please, for the love of God, if you're going to get married, if you're going to bring children into this world, then it's your job, man. It's your responsibility to superintend them. Don't be focused on your little, extramarital affair with, the captain of the fire department. Don't be, so out of touch that you can't see the demons as they come and try to attack your kids. you've got to be involved. You got to be engaged. You don't have to helicopter parent, but man, you need to know what a red flag is. And when your gut's telling you something is wrong with your kid, then you've got to go get them an exorcism. I don't know, take them to therapy, lay hands on them, modulate. And this kid's a product. And again, I'm not taking any kind of blame off Ethan, but he is a product of his parents, and they got held accountable for it.
Yeah, and for those that have kids that are not crazy, I think we got to prep them for these type of situations. There's quite a few backpacks with Kevlar in them now that you can get.
Yeah.
And there's a few of them that you can, like in half a second, unlatch the part from the inside, and it'll pull over the front, and you'll have Kevlar front and back. But at least a backpack with Kevlar, because they could turn it around and put it over their chest. And I know that sounds crazy, but we're talking about kids' lives here, right? And think about this. I don't know how much you could prepare your kids for this, but in the face of somebody with a gun like that telling you to get on your knees, just fight back. I'm not obviously blaming this kid. I mean, what a terrifying. That's terrifying. But you know what? We don't get on our knees with people with guns, because that's a wrap. You fight back. And and they said a lot of the kids actually were prepared in the classrooms. They barricaded the doors, and they were armed with scissors and other things, like ready to fight back, because they obviously had a couple more seconds. These people didn't have that much time, right, to think about it and to process it. But hopefully most kids will have a chance to think about it and process it. And if you got one of those backpacks, man, buy those for your kids. Teach them how to use them. Practice them throwing it on their body to protect their front, their organs, to keep facing the target, and teach them to fight back, man. Unfortunately, these type of things kids they're gonna copy, and it's probably gonna be it's not gonna go away. I'm not trying to be negative, but it's better to be prepared. Prepare your kids the best that you can.
Yeah, and the Virginia Tech massacre back in 2006, 7, something like that. Cho Sung-Wee, he goes through a classroom. These are college students, man. 32 of them. He goes row by row. They were cowering. And again, I've never been there. I'd like to think that I wouldn't be cowering. I'd love to think that me and, some other brother would cowboy up and, try to take him out with a laptop, a chair, something, I'm not going to sit there and just go, bam, get shot like that. It's not going to happen. He's going to get a foot. No. He's going to, anyway, so he executed 32 of them, and then he went to the next classroom, and it was the professor was a 78-year-old Holocaust survivor. He freaking put his body up against the door, and he paid for it. He got killed, but as he was blocking Cho Sung-Wee, the students are bailing out of the classroom windows, and so they all got out, and he died. And
dude, he's an animal. What a man.
Yeah. No, I mean, can you imagine? Again, I the mindset is, to flee, to run, and I think some of these guys are not, like Lanza, this Ethan Crumbly dude. I don't think they're the badass Rambos that they pretend to be. And it goes back to, should teachers carry? Yes, absolutely. Should all of them? No, but several of them should. Yeah. And again, get frickin', retired, law enforcement, retired
military guys.
Exactly, man. They would love to put a little 86 grain pill, right by the ear of some guy like Ethan or Adam, and give them a little heads up before they double tap center mass, that kind of jackass. And here's another thing, and it sucks to say it, because we didn't grow up like this, and we had guns aplenty back in our day, Rich.
Yep.
I'd seriously think of pulling my kid out of school.
Yeah, that's a real thing.
They're not getting taught anything except America sucks, and right. God is dead. And then you throw into the mix, these Ethans and these Adams and these, Nick Cruz type characters that are coursing around. And you could, man, I tell you, I saw a bunch of kids the other day, and most of them are fat. All of them, look like they hadn't had a haircut in, I don't know, 7 years, something like that. They're moving, walking so slow, they're like a manatee swimming in warm goo in the planet Jupiter. And man, I remember when we were in high school, everybody's skinny. We had our weird haircuts and stuff like that too. Everybody's active, everybody's fun. Most people are clear-eyed. There's a lot of zombies out there, man. And they're concentrating in public school, and then you've got
They're living on the stupid phones.
And you've got the apple of your eye, your son, your lovely daughter, or whatever. And it used to be the saying back when homeschool started. It's like your kids are going to be retarded because they're not socialized. And I think if you stick them into those kind of places,
then they're going to be messed up for sure.
Yeah, that's when they're going to get jacked up. Because again, it's almost proverbial now. You send your kid off to university, they come back with 666, tattooed on their forehead, their nipples pierced, and they hate God and they worship the devil, and they think Karl Marx is groovy.
Yeah, man. I think we've given enough attention to the bad guy. We should at least just read the names of these 4 kids that lost their lives just out of respect for them and their families. But Hannah St. Juliana, Justin Schilling, Tate Meyer, and Madison Baldwin were the 4 that lost their lives that day. So to put everything in perspective, if we sound rough or aggressive and you don't like that, remember that those 4 kids, siblings, parents, grandparents, family, friends, everybody, what they lost and the potential of those 4 lives, because this son and the parents, no one did anything. No one did anything. And no matter what happens, we can't take this back.
Yeah, and also to end on a positive note, because this podcast makes Van Gogh look like a rodeo clown, and because it is serious, deadly business, is thank you to all the Warriors and Wildmen moms and dads that don't have these kind of lunatics, who have done due diligence, and you loved your kids and you raised them in the fear, the admonition of the Lord, and they are a incredible asset to the church, the family, and the state. Thank God, that those parents are still out there, and they're not neglecting their children, and they're not boinking firefighters while their little Ethan is talking about killing school kids in his journal. So thank you for doing things right. Thank you for doing what God called you to do. And Rich, that's all I got, brother. What else does the Warriors and Wildmen listener need to do, big dog?
Go to warriorsandwildmen.com, subscribe. It's free. We'll send you a couple emails, let you know what's happening, keep you posted and updated. If you want to help support the ministry, if you're getting something good, go to the War Chest. It's tax deductible. When you send your gift, we'll send you that information. For those that are doing it, we appreciate you guys. Guys are awesome. Warriors and Wildmen, out.